When you look at the people who have shaped the world, the ones who stand out as truly powerful, mentally, physically, spiritually, you'll find a common thread among them. They are not merely products of their environment. They are not simply recipients of good fortune or beneficiaries of external validation. No, these people have done something far more profound. They have mastered themselves. They have taken full responsibility for the direction of their lives, stripped away weakness, and refined their character until it became something formidable. And if you want to become powerful in the truest sense, then you must do the same. Most people spend their lives blaming circumstances. They point at their upbringing, their failures, the betrayals they've suffered, and the unfairness of the world as if those things alone define them. But the person who seeks power, the person who truly wants to rise, understands that no obstacle, no setback, no injustice is greater than their ability to overcome it. Because self-mastery is the process of taking what is raw and unrefined within you and forging it into something unbreakable. That requires discipline. It requires the willingness to confront your own weaknesses with brutal honesty and say, this is not who I will remain. And that's difficult because it means there's no one left to blame when you fail. It means you can't hide behind excuses, can't rely on the validation of others to carry you forward. Instead, you have to wrestle with yourself. You have to wake up every day and make a choice. Will I act in alignment with the person I'm capable of becoming, or will I take the easy route and stay the same? People who lack self-mastery are slaves to their impulse. They indulge in distractions, numbing themselves with entertainment, mindless scrolling, cheap pleasure, and temporary escapes. They avoid pain at all costs, not realizing that in doing so, they also avoid growth. They are tossed around by life, dictated by their emotions, unable to exert control over their own trajectory, and then they wonder why they feel powerless. But the truth is, power is not something you stumble upon. It is something you cultivate brick by brick through deliberate action, through consistency, through sacrifice. Mastering yourself means developing a level of control over your own mind that others simply don't possess. It means training your thoughts, becoming acutely aware of the patterns that hold you back and actively dismantling them. It means choosing to push forward even when everything in you wants to quit, when your body is tired, when your emotions are chaotic, when the path ahead seems uncertain. You don't stop. You don't negotiate with weakness because you understand that each time you push through, each time you assert dominance over the part of yourself that wants to give in, you strengthen your will. There's a reason why so few people become truly powerful. It's because this path demands more than most are willing to give. It's easy to live in reaction mode, to let life dictate your circumstances rather than taking command of them. It's easy to blame, to complain, to wait for someone else to hand you the life you desire. But that's not the way it works. Power is built in the moments when no one is watching. It's built in the silence of early mornings when you choose discipline over comfort. It's built in the lonely nights when you refuse to let emotions dictate your action. It's built in the moments of struggle when you remind yourself that pain is temporary, but the strength gained from enduring it is permanent. And understand this. Once you master yourself, no one can take that from you. Circumstances can change, people can come and go, the world can shift beneath your feet. But if you have forged yourself into something unshakable, then nothing can break you. Because true power isn't found in status, wealth, or external recognition. Those things can be lost. But the mastery you develop over yourself, your mind, your habits, your discipline, that is yours forever. And that is what separates the weak from the strong. Most people will never experience the level of freedom that comes with complete self-mastery. They will spend their lives in quiet frustration, chained by their own undisciplined nature, always wondering why they feel unfulfilled. But you don't have to be one of them. You can make the choice to rise. You can decide right now that you will no longer be at war with yourself, that you will take command of your mind, your actions, and your destiny. And once you do that, once you commit fully to this path, you will realize something incredible. There are no limits. The more you refine yourself, the more you push beyond what you thought was possible, the more powerful you become. And when that happens, the world will no longer be something that happens to you. Instead, you will shape it in the image of the person you have become. There's a dangerous game people play, and most don't even realize they're playing it. It's the game of external validation. The endless pursuit of approval, of recognition, of acceptance from the outside world. And it's a game that no matter how well you play, you will always lose. Because the moment you hand over your sense of self-worth to the opinions of others, you become a slave to something you can never fully control. You become dependent on something that is fleeting, inconsistent, and ultimately incapable of giving you real strength. People spend their lives bending to the expectations of the world around them. They shape their words, their actions, even their ambitions based on what will earn them praise, on what will make them liked, on what will fit neatly into the mold that society has created for them. And in doing so, they betray themselves. They dull their edges, suppress their true desires, and become diluted versions of what they were meant to be. All in the hope that someone somewhere will give them permission to feel good about themselves. But the truth is, if your sense of worth is dependent on the validation of others, you are not in control of your own power. You are at the mercy of forces that will never be stable, never be fully satisfied, and never truly care about your potential. The people who accomplish the extraordinary, the ones who break boundaries and redefine what is possible, are not the ones who spend their time seeking approval. They are the ones who learn early on that external validation is a mirage. It appears to offer something substantial, but when you reach for it, it vanishes. So they turn inward instead. They cultivate a sense of self-worth that is independent of what the world thinks. They develop an unshakable belief in their own path, their own principles, their own ability to carve out a life that is meaningful, not because someone else says it is, but because they have decided it to be so. No, that's the key. Power isn't something that is granted to you when others approve of you. It's something you claim for yourself the moment you stop needing their approval. The moment you stop asking, what will they think of me? And instead ask, what do I think of myself? That is when everything changes. Because at the core of true power is self-respect. And self-respect can only come from within. But this isn't easy, is it? Because from the moment we are born, we are conditioned to seek validation. We are taught to conform, to follow the rules set by the collective, to measure ourselves against the expectations of others. Step out of line, and you risk rejection. Speak too boldly, and you risk criticism. Chase something unconventional, and you risk being misunderstood. And for most people, the fear of those things is enough to keep them trapped. They would rather be accepted for something they are not than risk being rejected for who they truly are. And in that decision, they surrender their power. There is a price to be paid for seeking external validation, and it is far greater than most realize. It costs you your freedom. It costs you your authenticity. It costs you the ability to live a life that is truly yours. And the worst part, it is never enough. No amount of likes, no number of followers, no degree of social recognition will ever be sufficient to fill the void that only self-respect can. Because external validation is an addiction. The more you seek it, the more you need it. The more you need it, the weaker you become. But the good news is, the moment you decide to break free from that cycle, everything shifts. The moment you stop living for the approval of others, you gain something far more valuable than their fleeting praise. You gain real power. The power to think freely, to act decisively, to pursue what truly matters to you without the weight of their opinions holding you back. You gain the ability to walk into any room, into any situation, and remain unmoved because you are no longer waiting for permission to be who you are. And do you know what happens when you reach that level of self-mastery? The same people who once doubted you, the same ones who criticized you or overlooked you, suddenly start to respect you. Not because you sought their validation, but because you stopped needing it. Because nothing commands respect more than a person who is entirely at peace with themselves, who does not waver in the face of external pressure, who stands firm in their values, their mission, their identity, whether the world approves or not. Most people will never experience this level of freedom because most people will never have the courage to let go of their need to be liked. But you don't have to be one of them. You can choose right now to stop outsourcing your worth to the opinions of people who don't even fully understand themselves. You can decide to reclaim the authority over your own life, to trust in your own judgment, to believe in your own vision, and to walk your path with or without the applause of the crowd. Because at the end of the day, external validation is nothing more than an illusion. And the sooner you stop chasing it, the sooner you realize you never needed it in the first place. There's a reason most people fear being alone. It's not because solitude is inherently unbearable. It's because when the noise of the world fades away, when the distractions disappear, they are left with nothing but themselves. And for many, that is a terrifying prospect. Because in those moments of silence, all the things they've avoided, every weakness, every insecurity, every unfulfilled ambition, rise to the surface. There is no crowd to drown out the thoughts, no validation to prop up the ego, no external force to shield them from the undeniable truth of who they are and who they have yet to become. But it is in that space, in that uncomfortable, raw solitude, where transformation begins. Not in the midst of constant social validation, not in the endless noise of other people's opinions, but in the quiet confrontation with oneself. Because power, true power, does not come from external reinforcement. It comes from deep self-awareness, from understanding exactly who you are at your core, from stripping away everything that is unnecessary and sharpening what remains. Most people never reach that point. They surround themselves with endless distractions, social media, shallow relationships, mindless entertainment, anything to keep them from facing themselves. They fear stillness because stillness forces them to see the truth. And yet, the most powerful individuals in history, the ones who truly shaped the world, all understood something that most never do. Solitude is not an enemy. It is a teacher. It is the crucible where you forge yourself into something greater. Because when you are alone, you are forced to think. You are forced to reflect. You are forced to ask yourself the hard questions. Am I truly living up to my potential? Have I allowed fear to dictate my decisions? Am I disciplined enough to become the person I claim I want to be? And those questions, if answered honestly, reveal the path forward. They strip away illusions. They expose the weaknesses that need to be strengthened, the habits that need to be broken, the mindset that needs to be reshaped. And this is where most people falter. Instead of embracing that discomfort and using it as a tool for growth, they run from it. They fill their time with meaningless interactions, with shallow pursuits, with anything that prevents them from sitting alone with their thoughts. But the truth is, the more you avoid solitude, the more you deny yourself the opportunity to grow. Because growth requires introspection. It requires the ability to analyze, to adapt, to refine. And you cannot do that when your mind is constantly occupied with the opinions, distractions, and noise of the outside world. Solitude, when used correctly, is a weapon. It sharpens your focus. It allows you to separate what truly matters from what is merely a distraction. It gives you the space to develop your own thoughts, your own beliefs, your own understanding of the world without the constant influence of others shaping it for you. And most importantly, it builds resilience. Because when you learn to be alone, truly alone, you also learn that you don't need external reinforcement to stand strong. You don't need a crowd to feel validated. You don't need approval to move forward. You become entirely self-sufficient, and that is a rare and powerful thing. Think about it. Who are the people that command the most respect? They are not the ones who desperately seek attention, who constantly surround themselves with people to avoid being alone. No, they are the ones who are completely at peace in their own presence. The ones who can disappear into solitude and emerge sharper, stronger, more focused than before. The ones who do not fear silence because they have mastered themselves within it. And that is the ultimate goal, to reach a point where solitude is no longer something to be avoided, but something to be embraced. Because when you stop fearing being alone, you stop fearing yourself. And when you stop fearing yourself, you become truly free. Free to think independently, free to act without hesitation, free to build the life you were meant to live without being shackled by external expectations. Most people will never understand this. They will spend their lives running from themselves, terrified of what they might find in the silence. But you don't have to be one of them. You can make the choice right now to step into solitude and use it as a tool for growth. You can face yourself fully, honestly, without excuses, and decide who you are going to become. And once you do that, once you embrace that path, you will realize something most people never do. Solitude was never your enemy. It was always your greatest ally. Comfort is seductive. It whispers to you, telling you that you've done enough, that you deserve to relax, that there's no need to push harder. And if you listen to that voice, if you allow yourself to be lulled into complacency, you may not even notice what's happening at first. But over time, you begin to stagnate. Your mind dulls, your body weakens, your potential slips away, and before you know it, you're living a life far below what you're capable of. Discipline is the opposite. It's sharp, demanding, relentless. It doesn't care how you feel in the moment. It doesn't allow excuses. It forces you to do what must be done even when you don't want to do it. And that is why discipline is the foundation of power. Because those who master it are the ones who rise above the rest. The ones who refuse to be governed by fleeting emotions, who understand that success is not built on comfort, but on sacrifice, repetition, and an unbreakable commitment to growth. Look at the people who achieve extraordinary things. They are not the ones who choose what is easy. They are the ones who day after day do what others are unwilling to do. They wake up early when the rest of the world is still asleep. They put in the extra hours when no one is watching. They endure the pain, the setbacks, the failures, not because they enjoy suffering, but because they understand that everything they want lies on the other side of discipline. And they are willing to do whatever it takes to get there. But most people won't. Most people will choose comfort, not realizing that comfort is a slow poison. It feels good in the moment, but over time it weakens you. It conditions you to avoid challenge, to seek the path of least resistance, to settle for a life that is less than what you are capable of living. And once you fall into that trap, it is incredibly difficult to escape. Because the more you choose comfort, the more it becomes your default. The more you avoid discipline, the more unbearable it seems. And that's why so many people never change. They tell themselves they'll start tomorrow, that they'll train harder when they feel motivated, that they'll commit to their goals when life gets easier. But life doesn't get easier, and motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the wind, and if you base your actions on whether or not you feel like doing something, you will never accomplish anything meaningful. Discipline, on the other hand, does not depend on how you feel. It is a choice, a habit, a decision that you make every single day, regardless of the circumstances. And the more you choose it, the stronger it becomes. The first time you force yourself to wake up early, to go to the gym when you're exhausted, to work on your craft when you'd rather do something else, it's difficult. But over time, it becomes who you are. You no longer negotiate with yourself. You no longer seek an escape. You simply do what must be done because you've trained yourself to understand that the pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts forever. And that's the real cost of choosing comfort. It's not just that you fail to achieve your goals. It's that deep down, you know you are capable of more, but you refuse to demand it from yourself. And that realization, that quiet understanding that you let yourself down, that you settled, that is far worse than any temporary discomfort you would have endured by choosing discipline. The most successful people in the world are not the most talented. They are not the luckiest. They are the ones who refuse to compromise when it comes to their own growth. They are the ones who understand that every moment of struggle is an opportunity to become stronger. And they embrace that struggle, not because it's easy, but because they know that discipline over time grants them something far more valuable than comfort ever could: freedom. Because when you master discipline, you gain control over your actions, your habits, your future. You are no longer at the mercy of distractions, of weakness, of excuses. You dictate the terms of your life. And that is power. That is the difference between those who achieve their potential and those who waste it. So the question is simple. What kind of life do you want to live? One dictated by impulse, by fleeting emotions, by the temporary pleasure of comfort, or one built on discipline, on resilience, on the relentless pursuit of something greater? Because that choice is yours to make. And the moment you choose discipline over comfort, always, is the moment you begin to rise. The way you see the world is the way the world will present itself to you. If you believe that life is unfair, that the odds are stacked against you, that no matter what you do, you'll never get ahead, then that is exactly what will happen, not because the universe is conspiring against you, but because you have already decided that you've lost. You've already accepted defeat before you've even taken the first step. On the other hand, if you choose to see yourself as someone capable of overcoming obstacles, someone who can learn, adapt, and improve, then the world will respond accordingly. Challenges become opportunities, failures become lessons, and setbacks become fuel for growth. And this isn't some abstract motivational idea. It's a fundamental truth about human psychology. Your perception shapes your actions, and your actions determine the results you get in life. Most people never realize just how much power they have over their own reality. They move through life reacting to circumstances, blaming external forces for their struggles, believing that they are at the mercy of fate. But the most successful individuals, the ones who truly carve out their own path, do not think this way. They understand that mindset is everything. They take full responsibility for their circumstances, not because they are naive about the difficulties of life, but because they know that responsibility is the first step toward control. And control is the foundation of power. If you believe that you are weak, you will act in ways that reinforce that belief. You will hesitate, you will shrink back from challenges, you will look for reasons why you can't succeed, rather than focusing on how you can. But if you believe that you are strong, that you are capable, that you have the ability to improve no matter where you start, that belief will shape your actions as well. You will push forward, you will take risks, you will develop the resilience necessary to endure hardship because your mind has already accepted the idea that you are not a victim of your circumstances. And that's the real difference between those who thrive and those who remain stuck. It's not intelligence, it's not luck. It's the ability to see beyond their immediate situation and recognize that they have the power to change it. Because no matter where you are right now, no matter what challenges you are facing, your mindset will determine whether you stay there or rise above it. But this isn't easy. Because from the moment we are born, we are conditioned to think in certain ways. We absorb the beliefs of those around us, our parents, our teachers, our peers. We inherit fears, limitations, and doubts that were never truly ours to begin with. And if we are not careful, we carry those beliefs with us for the rest of our lives. We live according to someone else's idea of what is possible, what is realistic, what we should and should not expect from ourselves. And in doing so, we unknowingly build the very cage that keeps us trapped. That is why self-awareness is crucial. You have to examine your own mind. You have to question your beliefs. You have to ask yourself, am I thinking in a way that empowers me, or am I thinking in a way that limits me? And if the answer is the latter, you must be willing to break free from it, because the thoughts you hold on to will dictate your future. If you do not consciously shape your mindset, the world will shape it for you. And more often than not, the world will feed you narratives that keep you weak. But the good news is you can change this. You can rewire your thinking. You can choose to adopt a mindset that serves you rather than one that hinders you. And that begins with a decision to take responsibility, not just for your actions, but for your thoughts, your beliefs, your perspective. It requires discipline. It requires effort. It requires a relentless commitment to filtering out the doubts and limitations that have been placed upon you and replacing them with something far more powerful. Because when you change your mindset, you change your reality. You stop seeing obstacles as reasons to quit and start seeing them as opportunities to grow. You stop blaming the world for your failures and start looking for ways to improve. You stop waiting for permission, for validation, for the right circumstances, and you start creating your own path, no matter the challenges that stand in your way. And that is the ultimate key to power, the understanding that your mind is your greatest tool, your greatest weapon, your greatest asset. Everything begins there, everything is shaped there. If you, and if you don't, nothing else will ever be enough. Because in the end, the reality you live in is the one you choose to see. There is a version of you that you've avoided for far too long. A version that is stronger, more disciplined, more capable of handling the weight of existence. But confronting that version of yourself requires something most people are unwilling to face: discomfort. Because to become that person, you have to let go of everything that keeps you weak. And that is no simple task. It means confronting your own inadequacies, your own fears, your own self-imposed limitations. It means looking in the mirror and acknowledging that you are not yet who you could be, that there is work to be done, that you are carrying habits, thoughts, and behaviors that are dragging you down. And it is much easier to ignore that reality It is much easier to tell yourself that you're fine the way you are, that there's no need to change, that the real problem is the world and not you. But deep down, you know the truth. You know that if you do not rise to the challenge of becoming more, you will never escape the mediocrity you fear. That's why so many people choose distraction. They bury themselves in entertainment, in meaningless relationships, in anything that keeps them from facing the uncomfortable reality that they have not yet stepped fully into their potential. And the tragedy is, the longer you run from that truth, the harder it becomes to change. Because every time you avoid it, every time you shrink back from the work required, you reinforce the idea that you are incapable of becoming more. And that is a dangerous belief to adopt. But the moment you stop running, the moment you decide to face yourself fully, everything shifts. Because now, instead of being ruled by fear, you are driven by purpose. Instead of avoiding the work, you embrace it. And slowly, day by day, you begin to transform. The weaknesses that once defined you become strengths. The doubts that once held you back lose their power. And the person you once feared to face, the one who is disciplined, resilient, unshakable, becomes the person you are. And that is the greatest victory you can achieve. Not wealth, not status, not external success, but the knowledge that you did not let fear dictate your life, that you did not cower in the face of difficulty, that when the moment came to decide who you would be, you chose to rise. Because in the end, there is no greater satisfaction than knowing you became the person you were always meant to be. The path to power is not found in the approval of others, nor in the pursuit of fleeting comfort. It is found in the mastery of the self, in the willingness to face discomfort, to embrace solitude, to train the mind and body with discipline, and to take full responsibility for shaping your own reality. It requires the courage to abandon weakness, to let go of excuses, and to become the person you once feared to face. Most people will never do this. They will remain trapped in cycles of self-doubt and external validation, chasing distractions to avoid the weight of their own potential. But you do not have to be one of them. You can make the choice right now to rise, to step fully into the version of yourself that is disciplined, focused, and unbreakable. The world will not hand you power. It will not grant you strength or purpose or fulfillment. Those things must be forged, earned, and demanded from yourself every single day. And the moment you commit to that path, the moment you decide that you will no longer settle for anything less than your highest potential, that is the moment you truly begin to live